Welcome to Brainstorming America. I'm Ken Rollins, and I'm here with John Merrill. Good to see you, John.
Thanks, Ken.
You have a good drive up here today?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Where'd you come from?
Today I came from Tuscaloosa, and when I leave I'll be going to Talladega, and then I'll be going to Montgomery, and then back to Tuscaloosa tonight.
I've told you before, going to Tuscaloosa is like going on vacation for me, but to you it's just, I just drove up and too. Anyhow, let's get down to the show. Before we get into the show, here in Alabama, we have a bill for gambling that's underway. I'm not even up to date on where it is, but I am interested in it because some of my neighbors are in it. It's a big thing for discussion. A lot of people for it, some people are against it. And I got an opinion on it myself. What's going on with it?
Well, as of the recording of our show today, actually the bill is still in the Alabama legislature. There was a gambling bill that was passed through the Alabama House of Representatives for the first time in the history of the state. That happened several weeks ago. And then a modified version of the same bill was stripped down and passed through the Alabama State Senate. Because of that, and because it was the same piece of legislation, you'll actually have to have a conference committee where they will come together and they will actually put a single piece of legislation back together that will be presented to both chambers for affirmation and confirmation in order for it to become law. Now, one of the things you have to remember is because some of the things that are included require a vote of the people through a constitutional amendment, the governor does not have to take action. However, on the enabling legislation, which sets aside the administration of the lottery, the administration of casinos, the administration of the gambling aspect, that will actually have to be signed because it's codified and it can be modified in the future once it's in place. But once the constitutional amendment is considered by the people, and again, the enabling legislation only goes into effect if the governor and the rest of the people of the state vote on it and it is passed and becomes law. So this tale is yet to be told, but there's a lot of things that are going on with the gambling issue in Montgomery today. Not all of them are good.
The one thing that I had heard, when it's been up several times going back the days of Siegelman and all that, it comes down to a lot of it is, I hear, what is the money going to be used for? Who's going to manage the money? Who's going to be responsible for it?
Well, none of that's been determined because that has to be done through the enabling legislation. And look, Ken, if you want to know who's going to be making money on it, first of all, we all know this. The House never loses. The House may make some concessions to certain customers from time to time and have some level of a payout, but the House doesn't lose. If the House lost, the House would not be in operation for gambling, whether it's a casino, whether it's a lottery, or whatever it happens to be. And so you have to understand that. So if you want to look at who's promoting the issue, you have to look at who stands to gain the most money and have the most money made if the gambling issue prevails.
Having been in that business before, there had to be a 60% payout. So the people that are putting money in the machines, if that's what they're going to do, they will be a 60% payout at some point during the day. So, but the thing that I would like to, if there was any of them out there listening to me, they think about it like dirty money, sad money. It's taking people money from whatever, but it's money. You got the federal government requiring the state of Alabama to rebuild 4 prisons. We don't have the money to build 4 prisons. But if you had gambling money, you could take that dirty money. Now listen to me. They got dirty money from gambling. Put it with the dirty prisoners that do bad things. Build them a prison with that dirty money and leave the other tax dollars alone for building that prison. But I had went through that they were trying to take the veterans' money. Our former Senator Marsh had a bill to take our veterans assistance money to build 4 prisons. I'd shake my finger at this camera. I even put out his cell number on this show. And he begged me, I give. But we got, for gambling, you can ask 10 people and you get 10 different answers of what they feel about it. But the people I feel everybody's for it.
Well, I don't know anybody that has ever had their opinion about gambling changed. You either think gambling is okay or you're opposed to gambling.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to gambling.
Yeah.
I don't think that gambling is a good way for people to spend their money. I don't think that it's taught in the Bible, that it's something that we need to practice. I don't think that it is a good practice for the resources that an individual has, no matter how much money they do have. But you're not going to change people's opinion about whether or not they think gambling is appropriate or inappropriate. But the one thing that does need to be understood is this: gambling does not create wealth. Gambling will never create another dollar. Gambling takes money from one pot, transfers it to another pot, and then it goes to a third pot. But it is never going to create wealth. The only way that you create wealth is by taking a raw product, improving that product and making something marketable out of it, taking an existing product, modifying that product, making it where it can be used in a different way, or third, you can actually improve a service or you can improve a skill set that enables certain things to be done differently than they've been done before. But you are not going to be able to create wealth through gambling. We know that. Everybody knows that. That's simple, basic economy. Let me tell you what else is a simple, basic economic provision. We have to have some advertising to pay for our show. We're going to see you back here right after this break.
Welcome back to Brainstorming America. I'm here with John Merrill, and we're talking about, when we left, we were talking about the gambling. I wanted to interject something to John. He's not aware of it. I used to be in that business myself with another person, and we had many machines in this area. Some of you remember them in Alexander, Glencoe, Piedmont. Even had one at the truck stop up in, you talk about. Now listen, while we were hooking those machines up, they are controlled out of Canada, software, and it's electronic. While we were hooking the machines up, the truck drivers were putting money into them. They weren't even operational. And we told them that, but they still wanted to play them. It would play a game, but there's no way it'd pay off because they hadn't been hooked up. But they sit there and played them because they had to sit there. Truck drivers have to sit for 8 hours sometimes.
Sure.
And they had nothing to do but play those machines and putting money in. And so, every Monday I'd make a run. I'd go get my share of the money. People don't understand that those machines, we were sitting there one day at the one in Glencoe, and over on the back side of the casino, there was some yelling, happy people, because the machine was paying off. People hitting jackpots. Well, my partner had his phone sitting there, and on speed dial was Vancouver, British Columbia, who was in control of the software. And he dialed that number, and before they said hello, they said, we saw it. They saw a $1,500 pot go out. And all of a sudden, they tightened those machines up. Every machine in the house got tightened up where they wouldn't pay off as much. And we heard a collective groan throughout the area because they quit paying off as much. So if you think you're winning because you're good and you're skilled, you can't.
You can't win. The house wins.
Thank you.
The house controls it. The house makes the money. Mm-hmm. That's why they're successful. That's why they're always going to be successful. The school children do not win. The mom and dad do not win. Nobody wins except for the house. You're going to have a payout at some level for certain people, so they'll continue to put their money in the machines and to be a part of that process. But if you won more than the house would have to close, and the house is not closing.
John, we had a school teacher from Gadsden, Alabama. She would play. I'd see her come in about 3:30, 4 o'clock, somewhere in that time. She'd start playing, and she'd play all night long. She'd go use the bathroom, wash herself off and stuff, and in the morning, she'd leave there to go teach school. She'd go up there, spend a day teaching, come back, and she gamble. Sometimes she'd say, "Can you?"
She didn't teach math, did she?
She'd say, "Can you spot me $500?"
Oh,
Sure. Spot her $500. Next day she'd bring you $500. Had a guy that owned a construction company, very wealthy fella. Spot him $500, give him $500. Next day he'd come back for $500. These people had the money. The one guy had the money. The school teacher didn't have the money. She was one hit away from her dream, but she never hit as long as I saw her there. I never heard her yell out.
she never hit it, brother.
No, she didn't.
Most people don't hit it. That's why the house always wins.
But you think you will, though.
Of course.
Always.
It's in your mind that you're going to get a big payout, and you're going to get the financial benefit from all the other people that have paid over all of this time, and that's not what happens.
Oh, I've had ladies reach down in here and pull out their butter and egg money, they call it. This is my power bill. Things like that. I've seen the bad side of it, and it is there. It's for real. If you don't believe it, just go hang around a while. But there's a lot of people that come in them places. Every person that comes in there thinks today's the day. I'm going to win enough to pay off that car note.
That's right.
I'm going to win enough to pay off that 2 payments, the house payments I'm behind. All that stuff is going to happen that day by putting a quarter in over here.
That's right.
That's the way they think.
That's what they think.
But but
that's not the way it works.
No.
And it cannot work that way economically. If it worked that way, then there would be a major loss for the house, and the house is never going to lose. It's not designed to lose, and it's not going to lose because they have to continue to operate the multi-billion-dollar industry that the gaming industry is.
Well, I'm going to jump to another subject. You was Secretary of State. We witnessed just recently, Colorado tried to, Secretary of State there.
Before we leave this, and before you talk about President Trump being left off the ballots, let's finish
That
this
wasn't
part.
what I was going to talk about.
Let's talk about this
gambling.
just for the remainder of this segment. If people are, if you're undecided about what you need to do related to the gaming issue, let me encourage you to read as much information as you can about gaming, about gambling, and understand the process that's involved with casinos, with the lottery, how the payouts work, what the money comes from. Because if you could sell enough Alabama football tickets, you could generate enough tax to do the same thing. You don't have enough capacity to sell enough Alabama or Auburn or UAB or Jacksonville State football tickets. You don't have enough capacity for that. But you have unlimited capacity when it comes to the gaming industry. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have an educated electorate that understands what is going to happen if we have gaming in the state of Alabama. And if you reach that point and you still feel like it's a good investment, after all those financial and economic questions have been answered, then you should vote for it. If you don't, then you should vote against it. Thank you for listening to these 2 segments about this very important issue. We'll come back with the final segment of the 54th episode of Brainstorming America right after this.
Welcome back to Brainstorming America. Ken Rollins here with John Merrill, and we spent a lot of time with the gaming thing, and I guess we could do 2 shows on that, couldn't we?
We can do 32 shows on that.
And we'll do it next time we do it. We'll still probably be talking about it. But yeah, I'd like to go into something. The word I'm going to throw at you, insurrection. I want the people out there to really understand that Donald Trump is being charged with insurrection, not being charged with insurrection. These bills thrown against him, everything. He has never been officially charged with insurrection, to my knowledge.
No, he has not.
But yet, all of this stuff goes down to that word, insurrection, the January 6th insurrection. I don't know how you can do an insurrection. Nobody had a weapon. Nobody, I've looked it up. I've even Googled it. you want to Google insurrection, you'll see the same thing I did. What I saw on the video with my own eyes was people being welcomed to the Capitol by the Capitol Police and actually escorted throughout the Capitol. How that could be called. Now, I know some things happened other than that. I know that there was threats against the vice president. I know there was some crazy people involved in that. But as an overall thing, it looked like a big tour to me. But nobody had a weapon to fight with. How do you do an insurrection? When I look up the word insurrection, it is violent.
You want to define an insurrection? Look at April the 8th, 1861, Fort Sumter, South Carolina, and what occurred until April the 12th, 1865, when the Civil War, the war between the states, as some people would call it, the War of Northern Aggression, whatever you want to call it, that is an insurrection where our country actually split into two, where we had brothers fighting against brothers. We had families fighting against families, friends fighting against friends for the survival of the Union and the advancement of the Confederacy. That's an insurrection. What we saw at January the 6th at the United States Capitol was an uprising of people who didn't think their voices were being heard in a chaotic state, who had their voices heard, who did break some windows, who did damage some minor property, but did not actually participate in any defined version of an insurrection. But that's what the liberal mainstream media continues to call it. And they do that so they can continue to push a mainstream liberal narrative that is not productive for the future of the Republic. We need to understand what the insurrection is all about. We need to understand what the protest that you saw January the 6th is all about. And you need to understand how this is going to impact the future of the nation come November the 5th.
Well, you got the situation in Georgia with Fannie Willis. I want to say Fannie Willis. It's about objecting to the election.
And just to remind the viewers, Fannie Willis, as you referred to her, is the prosecutor in Fulton County that is trying to advance a prosecutorial effort against former President Donald Trump because of certain conversations that took place between him and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and other people that were involved in the post-election conversations after November of 2020.
Yeah. Well, if I was asking you, hey, we got to have 16 tires to put on that tractor trailer. Right now it's got 4. Find me 4 more. I mean, when the vote situation was, Trump had said, well, we're short so many, find me that. It's not like create. There's other words he could have used, like go over there and steal some or whatever. It was find me some. And anytime you as a Secretary of State have had recounts, have you not?
Absolutely, we have.
And did it always come out exactly like it was before?
No, as a matter of fact,
extra.
There was always some difference whenever it occurred.
And if you'd have counted it again, it'd done the same thing.
But one of the things that people need to know, Ken, especially our viewers, if you're interested in what conversation actually took place between Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in Georgia and President Trump after the 2020 election, you need to get a copy of the transcript of their conversation. There is a copy available in Integrity Counts, which is Secretary Raffensperger's book, and he talks about the entire conversation, the entire effort that occurred through the administration of the election in Georgia in 2020. But you can get access to that transcript online at no cost. But educate yourself about these topics and educate yourself about those conversations that have occurred. Make sure that you know and understand what's being introduced, what's factual and what's been fabricated, so you can be prepared to have that conversation with your friends, your family, and your neighbors.
But in the past, we have had people that objected to election. Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters. We've had all kinds of people who have disagreed with the election. As a matter of fact, I saw that Letitia James, that's prosecuting in New York, her talking about before the election, she's going to get that illegitimate president. Her words. She was running on one thing. She would bring down Donald Trump. And you saw all that. On tape is her saying that illegitimate president, talking about Donald Trump, still denying the same thing they're charging Trump with, that he disagreed with the election. Look how many people disagreed with his election. But it's okay for thee, but not for he.
Right.
And I don't understand what the laws of this country is.
Well, it's a major problem, Ken, and it's a problem that will not even be reconciled in the November election this year. But it is something that we continue to talk about because it's so very important to the people that are watching our show each and every week. It's important to Ken, it's important to me, it's important to your families, it's important to all Alabamians, it's important to everybody that's a citizen of the United States. Thank you for taking time each and every week to join us to talk about these important topics, these important issues, the future of our republic. Thank you for wanting what's best for our area. Thank you for wanting what's best for Alabama. And thank you for wanting what's best for the United States of America. We'll see you again next week as you join us for another episode of Brainstorming America.